6 weeks ago, a friend of mine sent screenshots that my stepmother posted in a step-parents group on Facebook, where she had said, "This is why age doesn't mean anything with stepkids." And in that group, she posted an old piece of my letter, homework from 2nd or 3rd grade, where I got very emotional. My mom died when I was 5, and my dad was remarried about a year when the homework was written, but we were asked to talk about who the most important people were and why we loved them. In said homework, I talked a lot about my mom and how she had been important to me because she loved me and always made me feel safe, and how my dad had replaced her and expected me to replace her with my stepmother, and it made me sad. However, he was still the other most important person in my life. This is just a basic synopsis of what I wrote, but it was very emotional and clearly written by a little kid. I remember my teacher calling Dad in to speak to her at the time because she was concerned. I remember talks with my dad and all that stuff. He told me how he hadn't replaced my mom and how much it hurt my stepmother to read that because she loved me, and she was hurt that she wasn't mentioned as one of the most important people when I had also mentioned Grandpa from Mom's side and my grandma from Dad's side. Anyway, my stepmother posted that homework in that social media group, along with some comments to others about how I had been so young and how it was a slap in the face. Then my dad was chiming in and saying how he felt so bad for my stepmother and how badly I had acted, writing something like that. Stepmother said it was like some kids don't accept that the adults are the ones who know what's best, and that if you're loved as a kid, you should love the adult back as a parent and all this stuff. Dad agreed with her. They ranted about how I still don't call her mom, even though I'm in my 20s and a mom myself. I was so angry. Dad had always told me that I came first, and he wanted me to know that he would never think badly of me for not thinking of her as my mom. But then he blasted me along with her and shared something pretty personal and showed a lot of my pain back then. And to put that up to shame me and make a point about stepkids, I confronted him because I care less about her. But as someone who prides himself on saying he puts his kids first, I felt like he was being a hypocrite and an idiot. He didn't like me saying that and told me I was never meant to find out, and freedom of speech is a thing. He also said all my old homework is fair game for sharing since it's technically his as my parent. He told me I had no right to attack him over private stuff, and he should be allowed to vent. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. For your sake and your kids, go low or maybe no contact. These people used your grief as a child to shame you to strangers. They crap-talked a grieving child pouring out their raw emotions. These are not good people. I'm trying to imagine being in stepmom's social media group and seeing her post homework from 15 or 20 years ago to complain. To any reasonable person, a stepmom would be outing herself as a bitter, bullying idiot who holds a grudge over the actions of a literal child. Maybe her social media group is an echo chamber made up of like-minded jerks, but the point is that she's making a far worse statement about herself than she is about OP. It is staggering that your dad went for the freedom of speech to humiliate a child at their most vulnerable publicly. By all means, Dad, say whatever you want, but know you've permanently damaged our relationship. I'm so sorry. Losing a parent at any point is tough. It's life-altering when you're a child. I'm astonished that anyone would want to humiliate their own child for expressing such heartbreaking sentiment. And as for his wife, to still be simmering with resentment about your grief 20 years later is beyond belief. If I were you, I would be seriously debating whether I wanted these people in my children's lives. My female big sister got married on Friday. She and I are twins, so we're very close and best friends. She's child-free, and I have 2 boys, both toddlers. Obviously, she loves her nephews, and she never mistreats them. But she's not a person who would accept being a babysitter for a day. She has never offered to help with anything, though it's her choice and I respect it. Not surprisingly, her wedding was child-free, even for the family. She asked me to be her maid of honor, and I accepted. I was responsible for a few things at the ceremony and party, nothing complex, but I asked another bridesmaid for help, so she was also on top of everything. My children stayed with my in-laws while my husband and I went to the wedding. About 10 minutes before everything started, I was there for 2 hours. My in-laws called, saying that my youngest had hit his head while playing with my oldest and that they were taking him to the hospital. I despaired. Even though they said he was conscious, my heart was not at peace, nor my husband's, so we decided to go to the hospital. I talked to the bridesmaid and explained everything I had to do. She accepted, and when it was time to talk to my sister, she had a meltdown, saying that I couldn't go at the most important moment of her life, and if I was choosing him instead of her. I got really irritated and said, "Yes, I chose my son in the hospital." I left with her cursing me. My son is fine, but he got 2 stitches without any internal trauma. They did the exams, but we only left the hospital the other day because they preferred to put him under observation because he's very young. Like my husband, I preferred to stay away from my cell phone. When I got home, there were several calls from different people, and I answered when I saw my sister's message. She asked before how my son was, and when she learned that it was a minor injury, she started screaming, saying that I abandoned her at the most important moment in her life and that she was without a family in her own marriage, no parents or grandparents. I left my responsibilities to someone who did everything wrong and caused an embarrassment. And to make matters worse, I didn't even want to show up since my husband could stay in the hospital while I would at least share this moment with her. She called me several names until my husband took the cell phone out of my hand and told her to screw off. I really could have at least gone to the party, but I wasn't going to make it knowing my baby was in the hospital. I can't help but feel bad for my sister. Am I the idiot? She started screaming, saying that I abandoned her. Had she rather have you abandon your child to stay with this grown woman? She's the idiot. Your sister needs to chill. Yes, it was a minor injury, but it could have been worse. Always better to be safe than sorry. She sounds like a bit of a bridezilla. I get that her day was important, but she's showing you where her priorities lie. I don't have kids, but I can't imagine being myself in any position at the wedding. It's her nephew too. Like, hit his head for a toddler could be anything. It's not like anyone could have possibly known it would be okay at that time. It sounds like they kept the kid in the hospital for a few days because even the doctors didn't know. So sisters not only incorrectly decided that she knew better than the doctors and the injury was minor, it wasn't minor, but she also decided that OP should have known that it would be minor from only hearing that her 1-year-old hit his head. This is one of those inevitable hurt feelings that aren't anyone's fault situations. You had no choice but to go to your son's side. Head trauma can be really scary, especially when it's a child. Your sister's entitled to her hurt feelings about not having family on her wedding day, but she's overreacting and taking it out on you when you couldn't help it. This week, my parents and my brother took me out for my birthday. My brother was a bit down because his divorce was finalized earlier this summer. He is living with my mom and dad temporarily because he was no longer eligible to live in military housing once the divorce was final. I've never been married, so I don't understand, but I try to be supportive. For example, doing things like taking him out so he isn't just sitting in the house all day while my parents are at work, or proofreading his resume. I do understand that he's going through some stuff, but he spent the entire night complaining, and no matter what anyone said or did, he was negative. I tried to ignore it, but when he made a comment about our waitress while we were walking back to the car, simply because she was wearing an engagement ring, I snapped. The waitress didn't mention marriage, and her service was fine. My brother said she probably lied to her boyfriend to get him to agree to marry her. I snapped and told my brother that his wife didn't lie, and his marriage failing was his fault. My brother met my ex-sister-in-law when she had just finished her medical residency and was new in the military. They met in 2008 and got married in 2010. From the start, she told my brother she never wanted kids. She was open about being childless by choice to everyone, so he dated her and married her. This whole time he thought she would change her mind, and after all this time, he got mad at her when she got mad at him for pressuring her to have kids. I didn't marry her, and I knew she was childless by choice. It wasn't a secret. She divorced him because he wouldn't stop pressuring her to have kids and get her tubes untied. He went so far as to try and change the grounds for divorce from no fault to fraud, claiming she entered the marriage under false pretenses. That didn't go anywhere. He maintains she lied, and he's also mad that he wasted so much time with her. Before I snapped at him, I had never said anything. His divorce was none of my business, and I only tried to be a supportive brother, but his comments about the waitress pushed me over the edge. He's got his underwear in a twist and wants me to say sorry to him, but I'm not sorry. I've listened to him complain for months since she filed for divorce, and it's only gotten worse since he moved back here. I have tried to be supportive and helpful as much as I can. Was I the idiot for snapping at him? He's still angry about it. Not the idiot, but also probably not going to get him to see reason. The literal years of him expecting his ex to change her mind should tell you that he's someone who crafts the narrative he wants when confronted with someone telling him something he doesn't want to hear. That is a spot-on analysis. He will not hear what he doesn't want to hear, OP. Your brother's bitter because he never bothered to listen to anyone but his inner voice of selfish desire. It doesn't sound as if sister-in-law was anything but transparent. Maybe someday he'll realize that her joining the military and being in medicine are two exceptionally demanding activities that reinforce the idea of being childless, and that he was blind to what she said to him and her actions. He made his bed. The fraud was all in his mind, assuming his ex would change her mind just because he was so wonderful, and it would be a crime against humanity not to replicate his genes in some form. What an idiot. She's better off without him, and so too would you be. This happened last year, but I still receive snide comments and remarks from my brother and sister-in-law about this. I'm obsessed with makeup and skincare. It's probably one of my favorite things in the world. I'm not a professional, but sometimes I will do makeup for my friends and family for special events. But again, I'm not a professional. So it's only something I do for people I know and am very close to, for obvious liability reasons, and because I just flat out don't want to. I also do not like when others use my makeup for hygienic reasons. When my brother and sister-in-law got engaged, I was thrilled. Sister-in-law is a sweet girl and treats my brother well. During the wedding planning, sister-in-law asked me several times if I would do the makeup for her wedding and her wedding party. I said no. I didn't want those people using my makeup, and I explained that I was not a professional and wouldn't do it. Sister-in-law seemed fine with my choice, and I thought we were fine. She sent a text message telling all of us that she'd hired a professional to do everyone's makeup and that we would have to send her $150 before the wedding. I told her that I wasn't interested, as I'd be doing my own. She was upset with me and said that if she got 10 people to give $150, she would have her makeup done for free. Again, I told her that I wasn't interested and stood firm that I was doing my makeup for the wedding. My brother was super mad at me and called me a cheapskate, which caused us to get into a huge fight. We barely spoke in the weeks leading up to the wedding, and during the wedding, both he and sister-in-law snubbed me. My mother got involved and said I should have just given the $150, even if I wasn't getting my makeup done. But I told my mom that I'd already given them a gift. Why should I give more money? I wasn't a bridesmaid or even involved in the wedding party. I was just going as a guest and giving them a $500 cash gift. Since then, my relationship with my brother has been strained, and my sister-in-law will not speak to me at all, except for snide comments, calling me a cheapskate, or making snippy remarks about my makeup when she sees me. Am I the idiot for not caving and giving the money for the makeup artist? Not the idiot. You weren't even in the wedding party? Sister-in-law and brother are being ridiculous. You don't owe them $150. Your brother should have ponied up the $150 so she could get the freebie. You already got them a gift. You weren't offered payment for your services, and it's your supplies. They were taking advantage of you. Your sister-in-law is an entitled brat. If she thought you were skilled enough to want you to do everyone's makeup, then you're clearly skilled enough to do your own makeup. Next time she calls you a cheapskate, you need to say, "The $500 I gave you as a wedding gift proves that I'm not. And if you can't appreciate that, then I'll gladly accept the $500 back." The fact that she and your brother can't seem to get over this shows that this was never about makeup. This was about being told no, not once but twice. I hate to say it, but people who are jealous or dislike someone for no reason tend to latch on to the tiniest perceived or not slight to have a reason to be outwardly unkind and rude. I, 33 male, am married to Molly, 36 female. We have a son, Theo, 5 male. Molly and I got married 7 years ago, but both decided to focus on our careers before we jumped into anything ultra responsible, like children. I'm a journalist and she was a midwife, and we both did very well for ourselves. Our combined income meant we could actually survive this economy. Because we were so financially stable and kind of getting on the older end of the spectrum for children, we decided to have our first and only child, which is Theo, of course. When Theo was born, Molly and I both took time off work to spend the first few weeks with him, but eventually my paid break ended and I was forced to go back to my job. Molly did not go back. In fact, Molly did not go back for so long that she was fired. This caused a giant rift between us at the time, but we came to the agreement that she could be a stay-at-home mom while I went to work. This worked out for a few months until Theo started walking, and then Molly stopped doing anything around the house. She would go out with Theo all day, and I would inevitably come home to laundry everywhere, toys scattered, kitchen a mess, and just no sense of cleanliness at all. I would end up having to clean the house after an 8-hour shift, only to have to work more on reports. This has continued for the whole 5 years of Theo's life. At a time, I thought maybe it was too much for her and asked if she wanted to hire a nanny while we both worked, but she refused. I've asked her to maybe clean up a little before I come home. She agreed, did it for a time, and then stopped. Yesterday, I had enough. I came home from work, only to find Play-Doh all over the living room floor, kitchen ingredients left out on the counters, water spilled over the hallway, toys everywhere, food on the floor. It was extra stress, and I finally snapped. I told Molly that I was done with it, and that I wasn't going to clean these messes anymore, and that it was practically her job to clean the house. She snapped back, saying that she takes care of Theo all day and is teaching him and making him into a good person. Partially a lie, since Theo now goes to school between 9 and 3. She said that kids make messes, and if I can't deal with that, then I shouldn't be a father. That I was horrid to say she does nothing when she takes care of a 5-year-old while I'm away. It stopped after a while because Theo came inside from where he was playing in the garden, but I got told to sleep on the couch. I came back from work a half hour ago, and I'm still getting silent treatment. So I want to know if I was in the wrong and should apologize. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot for expecting her to be a maid and a mother. You obviously had no idea what it's like being with a child all day. Every woman handles it differently, and every child is different. You work all day, but being home with a child that is full of energy is very exhausting. You have a new kid now. Your home is never going to be spotless again. Not the idiot. It sounds like you attempted at making compromises, and if the kid is now in school, there's no excuse for her not maintaining the house. I get when he was little and helpless, and mommying can be exhausting when they're at that age, but he's a lot more self-sufficient now, so there should be no excuse. You tried to handle it properly and gave her 5 years of leniency on this one. Raising a child is very hard work, but it's unfair of her to simply dump everything else on you without trying to contribute or discuss it with you first. If Theo is in school from 9 to 3, what does your wife do during those 6 hours? Has your wife been diagnosed or suffered from depression? Perhaps it would be a good idea if you talk to her and ask if she needs medical evaluation.